We don't know exactly when music was created. It was created from ancient man. Probably his voice was the first instrument. Later on, he would have discovered other sounds that would be made by striking things. This would be the early ancestors of drums, for example. And at some point, he was probably hunting with his primitive bow and arrow and realized that string made a sound, and that was probably the early stringed instruments. He came on to be our guitar, violin, cello, and other stringed instruments. Um, Early man, we know there was a lot of music that went on. There's written music, uh, literature, references music in the Old Testament. This is an artifact from ancient Greece. This man has a lute. This looks like it may be a tambourine. They're different instruments. Obviously, they had well-organized music system, but we don't know what it was because the notation for that doesn't survive. The system that we use for notation came about during the Middle Ages, and it came about because of the Roman Catholic Church. It had a huge influence in the Middle Ages. The priests were the people who could read and write, and they had music that they did for their church called Gregorian chant, and for many years it was just passed on from person to person. They would learn it by repetition, by rote, and be able to repeat it for their services. Well, the human memory can't remember things perfectly, and they started trying to devise ways to notate this music. And this was the end result. It's a beautiful manuscript, and it was large, probably about this size, maybe just a bit larger. It was treasured. These people had to make their paper, they had to make their ink, they had to make their pens, and it's beautifully decorated with all sorts of artwork. But if you look right here, you see the words. These are the words of the Gregorian chant. It's in Latin because Latin was the official language of the Catholic Church. And here you see 4 lines, and you see square notes. That was the early ancestors of our system of notation. It was a huge first step. That music was then notated so we can know what music sounded like in the Middle Ages. This is a manuscript probably from about 500 years later, and they have gone to a system of 5 lines and 4 spaces like we have today. And I see recognizable figures, and they have notated rhythm that came about later. Once the notation of the pitch and the rhythm had been worked out, then European music took off. Everything could be created. Huge groups of musicians could be assembled to perform all kind of music. But the Gregorian chant was the beginning.